everybody. This is Robin Ayoub from the Localization Fireside Chat, and welcome to another episode. Today, in this recording, we'll be recording episode 166, I believe. And today I'm recording from Toronto. My guest is in the Golden Coast in Australia. So the time zone difference is a little bit challenging, but it's good for him. It's morning for him. It's afternoon for me. And the guest of honor with me today is John Dwyer, and John, and we're going to call him JD from here on to make sure that we're following the script. Today's guests have worked in some of the most recognizable brands on the planet, from McDonald to 7-Eleven, KFC, etc. One of the very few people who convinced my favorite comedian, Jerry Seinfeld, when I heard you did that, I thought, I got to talk to JD now. And he's my favorite comedian. And to lend his hand to a brand that John was trying to market, that's the greatest achievement. I don't think Jerry did any marketing related work right after that one. That's kudos to you. But what I want to explore today is not logos. It's not anything else other than judgment. Marketing today is louder than ever, more automated than ever, and paradoxically less effective for most businesses. JD has built a career around what he calls the wow factor. And I went on his website. It's quite interesting. And wow factor marketing, campaigns that actually moves phones, cash registers, and human behavior, not just dashboards. So JD, welcome. Let's start with this. Most marketing today doesn't seem to work, JD. I'm a sales guy, so I've got a bone to pick with marketing most of the time. Can you tell us why?
Yeah, look, being a baby boomer, Robin, it's easy to pick on the young guns. And I've got six millennial children myself, so I know what it's like to, they've left home, but when we do get together, I know what it's like to be surrounded by six know-alls. With today's marketing, look, a lot of the marketing agencies, and, let's face it, 90% of them are digital marketing agencies now, they are big on brand building. They will actually say to you, even if you're a small business and you really can't afford to put your face on the side of a bus or the back of a taxi, and you certainly won't be a sponsor at the Olympics, these marketing people will say to you, look, we'll help people fall in love with your brand so that they will taste your product. And what we do for small to medium businesses, because they don't have that sort of branding budget, we do the opposite. We show them how to get people to taste their product so that they'll fall in love with their brand. And I guess the reason that you would not be happy, and many others are not happy with general marketing advice, is because a lot of the marketeers are telling you to go down the brand building path. And that's fine if you're Nike or Kellogg's or Coca-Cola, you've got deep pockets. But if you're a relatively small business, then, sponsoring even the local basketball team, let alone one of the big ones, is probably not going to be very measurable for you. You want to do stuff that's measurable.
So JD, like I, just personal experience, I was working throughout my career, not any longer now, but throughout my career, I worked for a large organization. And the question was always, how much, for companies, such big companies, how much do you spend on marketing? And the budget was staggering, JD. One time I asked this CMO a question, like, what's your calculation for lead generation? Like, what is the price that you would put on each lead if you were to take your budget divided by the lead you've generated? And the number scared me. Like, I fell off my chair. It's like almost $30,000 per lead. I felt like, wow. And maybe it's exaggerated for me because I haven't been really to that level of involvement in those kind of conversation. Maybe 30,000 is peanuts. I don't know. But I found it like to be a little excessive. What's your take on how much money is being spent on marketing versus the results that we're getting from marketing, and specifically large to medium to small businesses?
Yeah, look, the crazy thing is the amount of businesses that don't understand, have not calculated their CPL, cost per lead. And I've worked in both the corporate sector and the small to medium sized sector, and you would think that the larger businesses would have the metrics down pat, and some of them do, but it's amazing that a lot of them don't. So in our instance, we're a small business. We're a marketing agency. We're called the Institute of Wow.com. And what we do is that we promote our services, our marketing advisory services on social media. Let's just say it's Facebook. Facebook's going to give you a small to medium-sized business lead. LinkedIn's going to get you to the big boys. But say on Facebook, when we advertise on that, we will get a lead for somewhere between $40 and $80. If I talk to them, if they book a Zoom like this, if they book a meeting with me, I'll generally get a 1 in 3 hit rate. If they talk to a couple of the sales guys I've got, they will get a 1 in 10 hit rate. And the reason they will is because they can't answer the questions as quickly as I can because they have not come from my background. Now, if I pay Zuckerberg, let's say $50 a lead, and that's if I've got a 1 in 3 hit rate, then he's getting $150 from me, but I'm happy because I picked up a sale out of that 1 in 3. So it just depends on, there's a big supermarket chain here in Australia called Woolworths, and I used to be the national marketing guy for them 1,000 years ago. But they are a massive, massive, massive company. And of course, because they're a supermarket chain, they're chasing consumers. They're not like you and I, they're not dealing with businesses. Now, if they advertise online, there's every chance in the world they will get leads for probably cents. 20 cents, 30 cents, 40 cents. But they're a massive business and they're chasing consumers. They're not chasing business. You're going to always pay more for a cost per lead for business than you will for a consumer. But, when you say sometimes they could pay $10 or $20 or $30,000 a lead, that makes sense if you're selling $1 million homes.
Yeah, you're right. Now, I got to backtrack with you. How did you convince Jerry to help you?
Yeah, look, I've milked the daylights out of that, by the way, for the last number of years. My buddies.
Do you know him from before? Or
No.
Is it like a friendship thing?
No. The funny part about it was that, I knew who he was, but I never really watched the TV show. I have since, and I can see why everybody loves it. But yeah, I'd never really been a fan on TV. Oh, look, how that came about is that there's a bank down under, which is a building society called the Greater Building Society. And I picked them up as a marketing consultancy client. And after a month of looking what they were doing, and it's exactly what you said, they had a big advertising agency basically blowing money on billboards on the freeway and TV commercials that were just a cute jingle. There was no real direct response marketing to it at all. And that's what we are. We're direct response marketing specialists. So when we advertise, we're hoping that the phone is going to ring like that afternoon, not build a brand up over time and maybe eventually they will come. So I got involved and I said to these guys when I looked at their business, I said, look, you're up against the big banks. And they were not a small business. They were the 250th biggest business in Australia. But they were up against like the Bank of America or Wells Fargo. And I said to them, look, you're a challenger brand and challenger brands need to do things different. If you don't, if you're not the 40-ton gorilla, then you've got to stand out from the crowd. And I said, you guys have got a problem because you're in a Me Too industry. And they said, what do you mean? I said, well, I can get a loan for $1 million from the bank down the road, let's call them the Bank of America, and I can get $1 million from you, and there's no difference. It's a Me Too product. I mean, it's different if you buy Cadbury chocolate from a no-name chocolate. You know that Cadbury's going to be a tastier chocolate. And they went, right, so what do we do? I said, well, you ought to think about direct response marketing, and one of the best things in direct response marketing is what we call incentives. And they said, well, okay, go on. And I'd been doing some TV commercials for a discount travel company. So I introduced them to the bank and we put together a campaign which was get a home loan and get a free holiday, get a free vacation. And so we came on TV 3 years before Seinfeld, okay, and we just basically said, look, if you're banking with one of the other big banks and they're probably treating you poorly, they don't even know your name and they don't give you anything, why don't you swap across, Heavenly Music, White Doves, why don't you swap across to the Greater Building Society where we'll treat you, we'll know your name, we'll treat you better and we'll give you a free vacation. It went nuts, absolutely crazy. And about 3 years in, the general manager of the building society said to me, okay, smart Alec, you've scored a home run with this, get a home loan, get a free vacation. What are we going to do next? And I said, look, why don't we go for, a personality, a celebrity or sports star to be a spokesman? And I was hoping that when we sent out a survey to all of the customers, not all of them, but a lot of the customers of the building society and asked them, who do you think would be a good spokesperson? I was hoping it would be an Australian celebrity because that would be pretty easy to get. Guess what? The names came in, Jim Carrey, Jerry Seinfeld, and I went, oh, I've dug myself a hole. This is ridiculous. How am I going to get to Seinfeld? So anyway, it took 6 months and a lot of back and forth with George Shapiro, his manager. But eventually George Shapiro got Jerry on the line and he just said, look, what's the creative? Because that's all he was worried about. He doesn't need the money. And I said to him, well, look, the creative, we'll leave it up to you. But my thoughts were that you would be probably standing outside a Greater Building Society branch, which, of course, we can make up a mock-up branch near where he lives. And you just do stand-up like you do. And then what we'll do is take the mickey out of all the banks and tell people to, swap their home loan to this bank and get a free vacation. And to my surprise, he said, yes, I'm in. I said, you sure? I said, you got more money than God. And he said, well, look, he said, I asked him later on, why did you say yes? And he said, well, number one, because I like the Aussie cheeky sense of humour. So he said, I enjoy that. And he said, number two, he said, I thought if I didn't say yes, you would never go away.
Persistency.
So I went to New York for 3 years, backwards and forwards all the time, and we produced the commercials near where he lives. It was a little town called Cedarhurst. It's only 2 days here, 2 days a year. But, the thing is that we scored him for $1.1 million a year. So therefore, he did 2 days' work and picked up 1.1. This is 10 years ago, by the way. So for 3 years, he got 3.3. But you know what? Despite the fact that even now, 10 years later, is still a lot of money, compared to other celebrities of what they've been charging, I mean, we got the deal of the century. And I think it was because Jerry just really didn't need the money, but he enjoys doing creative ventures. It was a creative venture. He just enjoyed it. And he was a delight to work with, by the way. He was just like he is on TV.
I watched the commercial. Like, you guys did a phenomenal job. And I actually laughed at his joke. Like, he's personifying, if you will, Jerry Seinfeld in the commercial.
Well, he took the mickey out of himself because we did a lot of commercials, and I know you've watched one of them, but there was probably 30 or 40 of them. And on one stage, because the gag is that he's come back to do comedy, and of course he sets up a microphone and a boombox outside the Greater Building Society. And it was an empty shop the day before, but we put a facade up and made it look like the bank. And the shoppers, who were all actors, of course, but they're just walking past, taking no notice of him. It was like he was his first street busker. And as it turns out, at the end of it, he came up with this line just completely out of nowhere when he said, look, if you're with a bank, swap your home loan across to the Greater and, you'll get a free vacation. And when the shoppers are just walking past, not taking any notice of, he said, come back tomorrow, I'll be outside the pharmacy. But a delight to work with. He was just a lovely guy. And yeah, I mean, sometimes you see these people in movies or television, and then, of course, you see the real them behind the scenes. He was exactly the same as he was on his TV show.
Absolutely. One of my favorite comedians. Now, tell me, you're a guru in marketing. Like, why podcast? Why are you doing podcasts now? It sounds like you're doing a lot of podcasting. What's the importance of podcast?
Yeah, look, message to market match, they call it. I'm a baby boomer, so I've been through newspapers and television and magazines as I come through my career. And of course, here we are today. Who would have ever thought this thing called AI was going to come around? I thought the fax machine was great. And this is the way for me to expose our stuff in front of qualified audiences. When we talk about CPL, cost per lead, on Facebook, whilst we get good leads, we get terrible leads as well. And there's nothing much you can do about that. That's just what the platform delivers. What I found out of doing interviews on podcasts, and we have a Filipino girl that puts me on 3 or 4 or 5 of these a week, is that the audience is already following the host. So, your audience is listening or watching you, Robin, because they've been doing it for a while. And so therefore, if you are going to have a guest on, there's every chance in the world that they're probably going to listen to that because they trust you. Whereas if you do a webinar, everybody thinks webinars are death by PowerPoint, which largely speaking they are. We try and make ours a bit interesting. But at the end of the day, it's a slide deck. Whereas in this instance, it's like a Conan O'Brien interview on a Tonight Show. And what we've found is that when we come off the podcast, not 100% of the time, but a large proportion of the time, I will get a call, an email, SMS from anywhere between 5 and 10 people. And they'll say, listen, we listened to you on the podcast and, can we have a chat over Zoom because we'd like you to have a look at our business.
And you're absolutely correct. Since I started this podcast, and it's just my personal experience about 2.5 years ago, when I first I did the first video, I was hoping like for 10 views on the video, right? And now I'm averaging 5,000 new viewers on the channel every week. Wow. That's YouTube only. Wow. And we got about 2.5 million views on the downloadable portion of the podcast. That's the audio piece. And we got about 200 downloads per day now. And I didn't do anything different. I just continued on with methodically having conversations with thought leadership people like yourself, JD, and a few others. And everybody who came on the channel, they got good success stories coming out of it. All I did is just facilitate the conversation.
Yeah, but Robin, the thing is that if you thrust stuff down people's throats like an infomercial, then there's a good chance a percentage of them will just shy away. But if it's a two talking heads Oprah interview like this, whereby there is no script, they know that it's coming direct from whoever the interviewee is, then it's much, much more believable. There's more credibility to it because there's not a whole bunch of slides that would, like there would be in a webinar or perhaps even a TV show.
Absolutely. Now, you've seen market change and marketing change according to markets across, various ages and various sessions throughout your career. What do you think the biggest lie businesses are told about marketing today?
Oh, yeah. Look, the classic, way back when I was probably in my 20s and 30s, the phrase was 50% of my advertising dollars is wasted. I just don't know which 50%. Well, those days are gone because with the metrics that are available to you online these days, then you should know absolutely right down to the last dollar what's working and what's not. And in our instance, I'll give you a classic instance. I'll hold this up because our specialty is getting leads. Okay, so that's the book that you have to write when you do the seminar circuit and what have you.
Avalanche of leads. I like that.
Yeah, so it's called the Avalanche Leads Formula. So, we get contracted back in the day before I swapped across to small and medium businesses, which is largely what we do now. We've still got a couple of big ones in there, but we largely look after small and medium-sized businesses. The bigger businesses would be asking me, look, we've got an ad agency that's building our brand because we're sponsoring racing car tournaments and we're sponsoring the Olympics and we've got our logo on the back of the shirts of the various football teams and so forth. Can you get us stuff that's measurable? And what I would do is that I would put together promotional contests. And there you had to obviously collect data in that. And whether we would give $1 million away, which would be, sometimes, I guess insured by Lloyd's of London. I don't know, Robin, have you come across the insured prize promotions at all? Have you ever heard of those?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So, you get $1 million from Lloyd's of London for 22 grand. Okay. So therefore that's the hole-in-one tournaments in the golf course. In our instance, basically what would happen at the end of the 4 or 5 weeks that the competition would run for the $1 million, someone would be drawn and that person would be invited to come to a boardroom where there might be 100 envelopes on the boardroom table, and in one of them is the $1 million and the other 99 have a motor car or a vacation or something like that. So it's what they call an insured prize promotion because the chances of someone taking that prize is going to be 1 in 100 at the final draw. Okay, so we do a lot of that stuff. And, basically I did all the scratch bingos for Rupert Murdoch's newspapers. We did the Monopoly style promotions for McDonald's and a whole bunch of that stuff. So I come from a contest background and an avalanche leads background, because if you've got big prizes like that, we would run contests, win lunch with Tom Cruise. And Tom Cruise, I'd ask his management, what would he charge to go to lunch with someone? And it was $250,000. So we would say, win lunch with Tom Cruise. Now, every woman who was involved in that, that campaign would obviously enter the contest. And if we won, then, if she won, I should say, we would put her in a private jet, send her to Hollywood, and she would have lunch with Tom Cruise. She doesn't know he's getting paid $250,000 to have lunch with him. Okay. And going through that whole contest thing, we picked up some tricks of, what wording to use and how to position these contests. So what we're doing now for people is that when a business comes on board and they want a bucket load of leads very quickly, we can get them 1,000 leads in a week for a spend of $20 or $30 a day on Facebook. No, this is like insane, absolutely insane.
Are you kidding?
Yep. No, and this is something we launched 6
months ago. I got to talk to you.
Yeah, well,
after the podcast, I got to reach out.
Yeah.
Give your first call.
Could you refer to me as David Copperfield, if you don't mind, Robin? Thank you.
David Copperfield, yes, right. I love that.
I'm showing
you make the magic happen.
I'm showing off, but I have to say to you, in all the years of doing this stuff, and there's been a lot of promotional concepts we've put together, I've never seen anything like this. This is crazy. So what happens is that we say to the business owner, listen, give away your product or service as a prize on a Facebook contest or LinkedIn or Instagram, but let's just say Facebook for the sake of it. So what happens is that they give up their product or their service as a prize. We run a contest campaign on Facebook to say, would you like to win that? Whoever enters that contest is obviously interested in that product or that prize. So it's not a warm audience, it's a red hot audience. They enter the contest, you give one away, but then you've got 99.9% of the other people who you can then contact and say, look, you didn't win, but obviously you want this. I'll give you a classic example. A month ago, a dentist here in Australia said, look, I'm after rich parents because I want to sell Invisalign braces, for children. And he said, I'm after rich parents with children with crooked teeth. Can you find them? I said, I'm David Copperfield. Of course we can. And so therefore we put together a campaign and we zeroed in, because that's the beauty of social media. You can laser target your audience into rich zip codes. And we just said, how would you like to win braces for your child if he or she should have crooked teeth? He spent $20 a day. So over a week, that's $140. He got 1,000 leads in the first week. Every single one of them is a prime prospect because they've got a child with crooked teeth. It was 991 leads, but let's just say 1,000, okay? His head exploded. He's never had 1,000 leads, in a year.
Yeah.
Anyway, so therefore what happens is that his girl would ring up these people and say, listen, I've got some good news for you and some bad news. The bad news is you didn't win. But the good news is that we've got a special deal on Invisalign braces. You've obviously got a child with crooked teeth. If you get in by Friday, guess what? We're going to give you a free family vacation. And what we do is that we give him the family vacations for $50. They're worth $1,000, and he can take the family to Vancouver, to Toronto, to Whistler, you name it, and stay in a 4-star resort. And he's paid $50 for a $1,000 vacation. So what we do, we combine lead generation through the contest with then a conversion tool, giving them a Happy Meal toy to get them across the line.
So I got to run something by you because apparently you're going through business to consumer in this case, but small business to small business. Example, I work with a company out of Ireland, they provide a recruiting services for other companies.
Yep.
And small, tiny company don't have the budget to spend money on marketing, and it's not their only story. It's not them. They're only suffering from that. I don't have budget for marketing. Not many small businesses have budget for marketing, to be honest with you. But in a small to small business marketing initiative such as this one, can you help somebody like this?
Yeah, look, it's tougher. If I had a choice, I would stick with B2C marketing. There's no question.
B2C marketing, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, B2B is tough for you and I because, when we're talking to people who might be a prospective client, they're going to say they've got to go through a committee, they've got to, ask 3 or 4.
Like decision-making process is much longer, harder, complicated, right?
Yeah. So, over the years with the avalanche marketing stuff that we do, I took out the football bubblegum cards here in Australia. So, you guys would have grown up with baseball cards and, these are the trading cards.
Sure,
used to have bubblegum in them, but they don't anymore. Well, in the late 90s, we took over the license here for doing all of that sort of stuff. So we did the Jurassic Park, bubblegum cards, and we did all the Disney movies, and we did the rugby league, which is our footy. And we moved millions and millions and millions and millions of packs of these, trading cards, because I could go to the Sunday paper and say, listen, I'm going to give Rupert Murdoch's newspapers trading cards to drop out of the paper on a Sunday. And they would actually come on TV for 3 or 4 days saying, buy the Sunday paper because you're going to get free footy cards, trading cards this week. And so therefore the children would pester power their parents because they saw it on TV, buy the paper this weekend. They would get the sample cards, which is like giving them a taste of the ice cream outside the ice cream shop. And then, of course, the pester power would kick in after they got their 2 sample cards. Mummy, Daddy, can you buy more at the drugstore? So we put them on a drug habit real quick. In B2B, with this particular format, what I do, if I see a slow month coming up, I will give away me. So that's B2B. Okay. So therefore, that's what I would suggest to this company. So therefore, what I'll do is that I'll advertise on social media and I'll say, look, how would you like to win a 2-month consultancy gig with the guy who Jerry Seinfeld trusted with his marketing? So I milk the daylights out of the Seinfeld thing, of course. I will pay more for that lead. I'll pay, let's say, $50 for that lead, where for a consumer, for that dental practice to get 1,000 leads in a week for just over $140. I mean, we're paying cents. But why? Because there's more consumers than there are business owners. So what happens is that I will pay $50 a lead. Let's just say, I get 20 leads. So therefore that'll cost me $1,000. Guess what? Out of those 20 leads, I will close around about a third of them. So I will get 7 new clients out of that 20. So back in the day, I'd probably run around, on stages in hotels and do seminars and conventions. This is a much easier way of doing it because I can just do it all online. So you can still do it B2B. It's just going to not give you the avalanche numbers that, a B2C.
Yeah, of course, you're not going to get 1,000 leads per week, but you can still get few leads a week, not necessarily 1,000. But even if you get in a business to business, even if you get like 20 leads a week, you're doing well.
Yeah, obviously you don't want to reveal who it is, but what industry are they in?
They're horizontal industry, so they provide recruiting services. So anybody who Anybody who needs to hire people, regardless of the location, globally, that's what they do. And they have a very unique model in terms of the cost associated with their services. Most people will charge like commission based. So when they hire somebody, you pay percentage of their salary. And if it doesn't work, you have to do it all over again. It becomes a little costly. With them, it's a bit of a subscription model. And a subscription model is very tiny, like it's not much. If it doesn't work, then when you hire somebody, they just replace them for free. It's a pretty unique model.
That's an easy one. Yeah, and I know I'm showing off when I say that, but that is a really, really easy one.
I got to talk to you right after this. I'm really happy about this one now. You solved the problem for me.
They would do the likes of LinkedIn rather than Facebook, perhaps. But
yeah,
but it's a really, really easy one because to attract bees to their honeypot, they would just simply say, win our services for free. We have a guy at the moment that only started, let me see, it was 3 days ago. Exactly the same sort of business model that you're talking about. He's a business broker. So he sells businesses for businesses.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, he gets paid his commission from the buyer, which is very unusual because, as you know, in the real estate world, when they're selling, residential.
The seller normally pays the commission, right?
You got it. Yeah, so the 2% or 3%, gets charged to the vendor, the homeowner. So he's got something like you're just talking about the recruitment company. He's got a unique model whereby, it's the buyer that does it. So therefore, we launched 3 days ago. His name is John, same as mine, and we launched 3 days ago, and we're spending $50 a day, I think it was. Yeah, but it was a ridiculously low amount. And it was saying to business owners, would you like a free estimate of what your business is worth? And at the same time, would you like to win one of the best business brokers in Australia, because that's what we call him, to sell your business for zero commission? And in 3 days, he's already got 74 leads. He hasn't had 74 leads in a year.
Yeah.
It just attracts the bees to the honeypot. And then, of course, once they're there, then it's obviously the job of his to, give them a valuation for what he thinks he can sell their business for.
In this connected world there, John, do you work with companies regardless of their location? I know you're located in Australia, but could you work with companies outside of Australia?
Yeah, a third of our, look, we're not a big business by any means, but a third of our clients are in America. Yeah, so, not a problem. And we have 2 in England. We don't have any in Canada, although this particular promotion here, I have to probably show this to you because it's a good ending to the Greater Building Society Seinfeld thing. When that promotion, look, it ran for 10 years, and the secret sauce with any incentive, just like McDonald's Happy Meal toy, if you asked any parent how much would a Happy Meal cost, they probably couldn't tell you, because McDonald's in 40 plus years has been clever enough to take your eyes off the price. And Kellogg's have done the same thing with the toy in the box. Amazon have a Prime membership club. If you become a member of that, then you get special privileges. All of these incentives are designed to take your eyes off the price. And there was no different with the Greater Building Society. When you got a home loan, you got a free vacation. They were the highest interest rate for home loans in the world for 10 years. Okay, but nobody noticed because it was a Happy Meal toy. We took their eyes off the interest rate. So can you imagine a bank for 10 years advertising, never, ever advertising an interest rate? Like, that's unheard of, right? So therefore, what happened is at the end of that campaign, I got contacted only a few years ago, actually, and they said to me, listen, we're a travel company. We get access to unsold hotel rooms throughout America and Canada and Europe and all around the world. And you look like you have half a clue when it comes to this marketing. Do you want to join forces with us and create some sort of promotional package, a Happy Meal for businesses, and to give away to, get customers? I said, yeah, sure. So that's what we've been doing over the last few years. And we actually have access to these incredible 4-star resorts in, right throughout Canada and America. We're talking Orlando, New York, San Diego, Las Vegas, Yosemite, Toronto, Vancouver, Whistler. And so what we do is that we actually provide these to businesses for $50. So therefore they're getting a $1,000 Happy Meal toy, and then they use it to lure customers. They simply say, look, use my lawn mowing services and I'll give you a free vacation. Buy my refrigerator, I'll give you a free vacation. And so therefore this thing here from a B2C point of view is absolutely rocket fuel. And for anyone who's in, a business that's B2C, do you mind if I just give them the URL if they want to have a look at it?
Yeah.
Yeah, just go to vacationsincentive.com. So that's plural, vacationsincentive.com. And you'll see all of the destinations around Canada and around the US that you can send your customers to. But it is, in my opinion, I might be a little biased, it's probably the world's most powerful Happy Meal toy, because it immediately takes everyone's eyes off the price when you say, buy my product and I'll give you a free vacation.
You know, when I was reading about your accomplishment, your business, etc., one of the things that, and this conversation has proven it right now, one of the things that I really got attached to as I was reading about you is the thinking that you have way outside the box. I love that statement. It's way outside the box. I really like that. And I think from what you've just been telling me here in the past 30 minutes, it's that level of strategy that you've implemented. It's way outside the box in a way that you're approaching marketing ideas and in a way that you're marketing these marketing ideas to a small company who probably can't afford large organizations with, I mean, there's a lot of marketing companies out there and you can't even knock on the door less than paying somebody $20,000. If you walk on the sidewalk, they want to charge you money for that. It's crazy. And here you are, catering to a smaller, lower common denominator kind of a business to consumer who's maybe just starting, or maybe they're struggling. We can't have leads, and you don't have leads, you don't have money, you can't pay anybody. It's pretty crazy how you were able to. I'm very impressed.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I'm going to have to give a recording of this to my wife just to prove that someone thinks that I've got some skills. Yeah, I've got to
Oh,
give you
please,
this.
if you convince your wife, can you tell me how you did that? Because I can convince my wife too.
Happy wife, happy life, eh? I've got to tell you this one. We're not making much money out of it, but it has been a screaming success. There's a cafe chain here in Australia. It's not Starbucks, but it's a cafe chain that's got about 29 locations. And he saw one of my webinars and he contacts me and he said, JD, look, we're not Starbucks, but that's the sort of thing we are. We sell a lot of hamburgers and club sandwiches, but we need to sell more coffee because there's a bucket load of margin in, a cup of coffee. Because they make a cup of coffee like for 50 cents and they sell it, as you know, for an outrageous fee these days, $4, $5, $6. And I said, okay, right, leave it with me. So he comes on board our consultancy program because, the vacation program we sell in a package format and we provide them with Facebook ads and landing pages and all the resources. If they come on an advisory program, which is the sort of thing that you do, then they come on for a couple of months and we provide them with a marketing plan over that couple of months and we ride off into the sunset and then they've got a marketing plan. And in this guy's instance, I came back to him 2 days later and I said, look, I've got an idea. I think it'll be a winner. He said, what's that? I said, we've got to replace all your cups and saucers. And he said, what? I said, yeah. So what we're going to do is on the bottom of the cup, when someone's finished their cup of coffee, there's going to be a phrase. And the phrase, we had about 20 of them, but the phrase would say, go on, you need another. So therefore, when you got to the bottom of the coffee and you finished it, you would look down and one of my 20 phrases was there. It was something like, you need more caffeine. You're not going to get through the day, The average sale of coffee, cups of coffee in his 29 cafes used to be $7,000 a week. It's now gone to just under $18,000 a week for every single one of his stores, okay? Now, the crazy part about that, I'll get out my calculator here. If I say that each one of those stores just picked up another $10,000 a week and you multiply that by even just 50 weeks, that's $500,000 per store that I've just given them. Multiply that by 29 stores. I'm a complete idiot, right? Because he gave me... You
should have taken some portion of that.
Yeah, I'm an idiot. He gave me between $2,000 and $3,000 that first month for consultancy fees. And he's a lovely guy, and he couldn't happen to a nicer guy, but his head is exploding as well. And with the building society, with the get a home loan, get a free vacation, their number of loans increased in the billions. And when Seinfeld came along, it went in the billions and billions and billions. And I was having a coffee with Jerry on one of the shoots, and it was the third year. And he said to me, JD, what percentage have you got? I said, no, I'm an idiot. And he said, well, don't tell me you charge them a monthly fee. He said, you're an idiot. I said, I know I am. He gets paid residuals on every time they put that show on TV. He said, listen, after we finish this next take, why don't we have a coffee? I'll just show you how you should be getting a percentage in the future.
Maybe that's a lesson for me to find out about percentages.
Well, I don't know what? It's all very fine to say, look, take a percentage. And throughout my career, I've asked it, and look, it's very difficult to get away with that because they will say, in the bank instance, when I did bring it up to them in all seriousness, they said, look, you've made such a substantial difference. We'd love to reward you. And they did. They just bumped up my consultancy fee without me even asking. But they said, we can't, because if the Reserve Bank decides to drop the interest rates, because they just do, then we'll sell more home loans regardless of Jerry Seinfeld or holiday, vacations or not. So it was just a nightmare to try and calculate something. But they were very kind. They were a wonderful business to work for because they knew that they were getting extraordinary benefit from my outside the box thinking. And so therefore I would just visit them and they'd say, listen, we've just bumped up your monthly fee to whatever. So yeah, you don't get too many clients to do that. It was a very nice gesture on their part.
And have you seen your WOW marketing style affect the business negatively? And sometimes there's something called too much business, and the business can't cope up with it. I worked for the past 23 years in the language industry, which is very labor heavy, labor intensive. You need a lot of people to produce it. That's not machines. So there is something I've faced all the time is when you got large people normally stress, they don't feel well about it, etc. Have you found that business to consumer, I guess, is a little different, I'm assuming, and you probably were too close. You're working close with the business owners. You were able to modify a few things. How do you tackle that?
No, you're right. When you have a reputation for that,
there you go.
I will get business owners, not all the time. Most people give me a bear hug and a tongue kiss, for God's sake. They want the leads, all right?
Yeah.
But you get the odd one, and these are normally left-brainers. They're not right-brainers. So these people normally come from an accountancy or operational background, so they're never satisfied, And they will go, oh, God, look, we can't handle this. And I say to them normally, well, in that case, you should just close up and go and get a job, okay? Because if you can't work out a way to scale, then you shouldn't be owning your own business. But aside from insulting them, we these days get AI involved. So, for example, that dentist that I mentioned got 1,000 leads in the week. His two girls that worked for him got through the first 100 and then wanted to jump off the top of a building because telemarketing is not good fun. And what they would do is, I said to you, they'd tell people, look, you didn't win the contest, but, what we have for you is an incredible deal here. If you get Invisalign braces for your child, we will give you a free vacation. They were getting 11% conversion rate. Now, we're talking about a $5,000 to $8,000 product here, okay? So they were getting between 11 and 14% close rate because they couldn't get through the leads quickly, and that's what you've got to do. You've got to get through these leads quickly. As you know, when they're warm, they're warm. We put
hit the metal while it's hot there, JD.
Sorry?
You got to hit the metal while it's hot.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Put your foot on the accelerator. And so therefore, they couldn't get through them very quickly. So we just put our AI robot onto them. We just use AI technology. And so the robot rang the other 900 people, and the robot got a 17% conversion rate compared to the human, between 11 and 14%. So that's what we do. If there's a nuisance client who is never happy because he had no leads before, and now we come along and turn the tap on, he's got too many leads, then we help out by using AI robots to ring up the people who, they can't get to.
That's right. What do you think of the idea? I never asked this question on the podcast, but I have to ask you. What do you think of the idea of firing a customer? And have you ever done that?
No, I wish that I was wealthy enough and I had my own private island that I could do that and that I would kick them up the backside as they left the door. But no, I've never been wealthy enough to sack a client. I've had a few high maintenance.
But you felt like doing it, right, John?
Absolutely. I mean, I hope your viewers and listeners will forgive my sarcasm, but sometimes if I am talking to my wife over dinner and I've had a number of client meetings throughout the day, normally Zoom these days, of course, I'll just say to her, oh God, I'm sick of I'm feeding strawberries to pigs. Because, you will come across a few of them that will say, oh, we've got too many leads. Just go away.
Yeah, too much work.
But yeah, so it sounds terrible to say that you're feeding strawberries to pigs, but the small and medium businesses that come on board, look, they don't have the resources that the Greater Building Society had, for example. So it was a big business. It's the 250th biggest business in Australia. So when my Get a Home Loan, Get a Vacation kicked in, they could very quickly increase their call centre from 15 ladies to 50 ladies. They could do it like that, okay, because that's just the way it was. Small businesses don't have that, I know. So what we've done in the last few years, because of my frustration of feeding strawberries to pigs and seeing that I would give them all these corporate level ideas, but they couldn't implement them because they're a small business, we now do done for you. So pretty much all of the concepts that we have, whether it's petrol disc, as in gas discounts, whether it be win $1 million or whether it be the vacation or whether it be the leads machine that I just mentioned to you in terms of the Facebook ads and so forth, we provide it in a package. So instead of paying me X dollars a month, what they do is that they just buy the package. And that package, we have a $1,000 package, a $2,000 package, a $5,000 package. So the vacation program, for example, we have a number of different quantity packages of that, whereby they can just buy it and everything happens for them. They don't have to think about it. They've got the Facebook ads, they've got the landing page, they've got the media release, they've got the SMSs, they've got email templates. They don't have to lift a finger, because I realized that in the small to medium business sector, they don't have a marketing team. You've got to give it to them basically so that they can just join the dots.
I got to tell you this story, this for the audience too. I had an old friend of mine. We got disconnected now, and I don't keep track of where the individual is anymore. I'm not connected to him at all. He was a sales manager in charge of a territory, and he had a bunch of channel salespeople working for him. And every month he had to fire one customer, and he sends an email to all the other customer informing them of why he fired that customer. That stuck. You get to an age where you heard million stories and you forgot probably 80% of them, but that one stayed with me. Who does that?
So he's threatening them. You better be good, because you could be.
You better be good.
Oh my goodness. Robin, I've got to tell you this one. I've got to show up, talk about being a show off. I'm sorry, but I've got to tell you this one. There's a turf farm that came to one of my seminars. Okay. And, he comes up to me at the end of it. His name was John as well. He said, "John, look, I've got a turf farm. First of all, he said, I sell grass." And I went, "Well, I don't know about that." He said, no, the real grass, the front yard and the backyard. Okay, right.
The other grass.
Yeah, the old-fashioned grass, not the one you smoke.
Yeah.
So anyway, I visited him because he wasn't far away from the city I was in. And when I visited him, he was up in a mountain range, and we went into his office, and I said, "How much turf, as in grass, do you have?" And he said, "As far as the eye can see across that mountain range, this way and that way." He must have had miles worth of grass. And I said, "What's up?" He said, "It's a commodity." He said, "It's a little bit like toilet paper. It's the same toilet paper. And in our instance, it's the same grass. It's not like a BMW grass and, there's a Toyota grass. It's pretty much turf farms have the same grass." I said, "Oh, okay." And he said, "Well, I'm up against all these other turf farms that are price discounting. If I'm $6 per square metre, they might drop their price to $5.50. So I've got to match it, and it's a race to the bottom." I said, "Okay." He said, "Well, have you got any of that incentive stuff, the Seinfeld stuff he saw? Buy some grass and you get a free something." I said, "Okay, who's your target audience?" And he said, "Landscapers." He said, "Because they will buy 2 or 3 homes worth of grass." I said, "Okay, well, what do you think landscapers, which are 99% men, would like?" He said, "I don't know, you tell me." I said, "They like beer. Why don't we give them a case of beer when they get a home's worth of grass from you?" And he said, "Do you think it'll work?" I said, "I think so, but why don't we give it a shot?" So we put together a campaign, and we said to the landscapers via, email and snail mail, we sent out brochures to them because they're technophobes, a lot of them. And we just said, "Look, for every home's worth of grass you buy from us, then we will give you a case of beer." So it was exactly the same as the Building Society, exactly the same as a Happy Meal toy from McDonald's. He rings me up 4 days into the promotion and said, "JD, we've got a problem, a big problem." I think, "Oh, did I forget something? What did I do? That's all I need, a complaining client again." And he says, "We've got no more grass." I said, "What? What?" He said, 4 days into it.
That's not what it came to mind. I thought he ran out of beer.
Yeah, well, but it gets better. Wait for it. He said to me, "Yeah, no, I've run out of grass." He said, "I'm sourcing grass from other competitive turf farms to keep up with the demand for the beer." I said, "Right, okay." The Happy Meal toy has taken over from the hamburger. I said, "Okay, yeah, right, yeah, okay." And he said to me, "Look, it gets better." He said, "This guy called Tom was my biggest pain in the backside client. He's a landscaper, and he used to ring me all the time to say, 'Listen, I'm not paying $6 per square metre for your grass. I can get it down the road for $5.50. And he said, "I'd have to drop my price." And of course, it just went backwards and forth. He was a pain in the backside. He said he rang me 2 days after we sent this out and said, "I need 18 homes worth of grass. I don't care when the grass gets here. I need the beer by Friday. I have a party." So that's when you can take their eyes. I mean, and he never had the price discount again, because, whenever he wants to put a whole bucket load of money in the bank, he just simply, rinses and repeats. And that's what happens when you give people a Happy Meal toy. You will find that will absolutely 100% every time take their eyes off the price. Why a car mechanic does not have a Happy Meal offer, such as let me fix your car, let me give you a vehicle a service, and we will wash it and vacuum it before we give it back to you. How easy would that be to get a 16-year-old kid to do that? Not one car mechanic in the world that I've ever come across ever value add. They just charge you a fortune to give you a grease and oil change and never
There you
think
go.
about washing the car.
My last topic I would like to dive into, if you don't mind. You touched on it a little bit. How are you guys doing with AI now with the wow factor marketing? Is it helping? Do you feel it's supporting what you do, or are customers? Is it helping your customers? I mean,
Yeah, in a big way. In a big way, I can sketch things up pretty quickly. So I've come from an artistic background. So before, I guess, the last year or two, I would sketch up what a landing page might look like for a client, or what the homepage of the website might look like. Because let's face it, Robin, I mean, the director of first impressions used to be Susie, who answered the phone. She's now been relegated to number 2, because the director of first impressions is your website. And, the homepage of your website. If your homepage is not attractive, then of course, that's just not the way to go. So what I'll do is I'll sketch up quickly. The problem was that when I sketched up the layouts for whether it be even a printed advertisement, or whether it be a brochure, or whether it be a website homepage, then the client would go, yeah, look, that looks good. I like the first panel and the second panel. I can see where you've got the explainer video in there. Once they approved that, it would take some time to get the copy written and then the artwork done. When I say, well, it's still pretty fast, but it might be in the course of a week, okay? Much faster than the bearded hipsters website designers, that's for sure. Now, that's done in an hour. So therefore, I will be on a Zoom call with them. I will say, look, you need a landing page. I will sketch up that landing page because I know what to put in the first panel, the second panel, the third panel, and so forth. I will then give that to AI, and I will brief AI on what sort of business this is and what sort of copy should be there. And I get the copy for the landing page and the artwork. So you wouldn't want to be a graphic artist these days, nor would you want to be a copywriter. That's all done in the space of an hour. I then email that to the client, and their heads explode. They think I'm David Copperfield. And if it happens to be a client that's in my baby boomer age group who might not be savvy, then I don't bother telling them it came from AI. They really do think that I'm a magician. So yeah, it's done wonders for us because I don't have to write copy anymore. I mean, obviously, as you know, if you put rubbish in, you're not going to get the best result. So the AI
that's right.
performance is going to be based on the
Yeah. You just reminded me, my first real job when I came to Canada, I was working for an insurance company. I was a programmer working for an insurance company in the actuarial department. I was an actuarial analyst for the company. And I was able to do, anything really using programming code, etc. So the name, the Lebanese magician, spread around. And I prefer the Copperfield, though.
Well, you know what? I've got a good bunch of buddies that I grew up with who are Italian, Greek, and a whole bunch of them are Lebanese. And this won't mean anything to any of your viewers or listeners if they're not Lebanese, but the Lebanese guys call me a Zub.
Oops.
Yeah, that's not a good thing, is it? Basically, yes. Okay. It means in a deeper insulting way that you are an idiot.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, they use it in a jokingly way, like they don't mean anything by it, but yeah.
So look, but my view is that you've got to embrace this thing. If you're not embracing it, then you're going to be left behind, because this AI stuff is absolutely, it's just mind shattering.
And if you were to be speaking right now, addressing the CEOs and the owners and business owners on this channel, what would be your advice to them right now?
I would say that, and this sounds self-serving because you're interviewing a guy that's got a marketing business, but I would say if you are not good at marketing, and most business owners aren't, because when all those years ago that they went to college, they ended up walking away with a dental diploma, or they walked away with the qualifications for being a plumber, electrician, or builder, whatever it might be. Yep. But not once throughout that college career path, they may have spent 4 or 5 years at a college, not once have they ever been taught how to get a customer. And so, when I'm on stage and I'm speaking in a seminar, I will ask anyone in the room from whatever industry they came from, did they go to college to get a diploma and get a degree? And, probably half the room will put their hand up, and I go, did they teach you how to get customers? And of course the answer is no. So they're great technicians, and they might have a dental practice with 6 other dentists, but they don't know how to get patients, So therefore, I say to them, listen, I don't do my own grease and oil changes. I go to a car mechanic. If you've got a sore tooth, go to a dentist. And so I would say to any business owner, if marketing is not your forte, then just settle up with someone who has got the skills in that area. I know it sounds like I'm doing an infomercial for me, but go somewhere where they've got a track record. I mean, the thing is, when you get older, like I am these days, then of course it's tempting to criticise the young ones. But if I was going to get a heart transplant, let's say you want a heart transplant for your business, you want to make more money, you want to make more sales, you want to get more leads. If you swap that across to being, a heart transplant for you, do you think you would get the doctor who's 25, who has never really done too many, just came out of, university, or would you get the guy that's been doing it for 30 or 40 years in his sleep? I think you'd probably pick the guy that's got a few wrinkles because he's got some more wisdom. So that's how I sell our services when you get to an older age. We've done this over and over and over and over. We've kept up with the times. So therefore, no, we don't do that many newspaper ads now. It's all online. But I would say to any business owner, if you are not good at marketing, then find someone who is and just pay them to look after it for you.
Absolutely. And if someone remembers one idea from this conversation, 6 months, JD, what would that be?
Don't go anywhere near that sarcastic Aussie, because there's every likelihood he will insult you within the first week of coming aboard. No, I would say stay away from price discounting. Do whatever you have to do to distract your prospect so that they take their eyes off the price. You do not want to market your services on price, because if you do, the guy down the road is going to beat you, or can beat you in a heartbeat. If you happen to be a little corner store and you're sitting opposite Kmart, if you think you're going to beat Kmart, you're going to beat them on price, then you're on drugs, okay? You're not going to beat Kmart.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, stay away from price discounting and replace price discounting with value adding. And that's why I talk about the Happy Meal toy. Make sure that you take their eyes off the price by giving them an extraordinary incentive.
Correct. Now, I've got a few rapid ones for you. Brand or sales? Brand or sales?
Sell.
Safe or polarizing?
Polarizing.
Data or instinct?
Data.
Consistency or surprise?
Wow, I wish I could say both of those, because, damn it, I've got to pick one, haven't I? Okay. Consistency.
More leads or better ones?
Better ones.
Excellent.
Yep, better ones. Oh,
JD,
that was
good.
I had two options. Wow.
That's right. That's right. So we come to the end of the conversation, JD. Any last thoughts, comments, anything that I missed that you would like us to cover?
Look, if you don't mind, Robin, again, at the risk of flogging my own stuff, do you mind if I tell people where to go to get some free ideas?
Go for it. That's what it is for.
On that last comment that I made, whereby I always tend to look at someone's history before I engage their services, because at the end of the day, history tends to show you what the future might look like. So if you go onto an advisor's website, it wouldn't matter whether they're a legal advisor or they're a architectural advisor or they're like you and I, a business advisor, and you find that there's hardly any case studies there, then I would suggest you might move on, right? And so what I've done is that on my website, I have got that many case studies. We have a tab up the top of the page. The website is theinstituteofwow.com. And if you go there, you could be there, as you found, Robin, because you told me that you looked at it. You could be there for hours. So make sure you've got a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. There's a case study page, tab. If you click on that case study tab, you will be scrolling for days. There's case study after case study after case study. Obviously, I only put the winning ones up. I didn't put any that didn't go so well. I thought that was not a good idea. But these are all winning case studies, and with my blessing, just swipe them. Take those ideas and use them for your business. Obviously, there's a method to my madness. I'm big on sampling. I keep on telling people, give out calamari outside the seafood shop, because when they taste the calamari, they'll come in and spend money on the big fish, right? And so therefore my case studies, pitch is so that people get a taste for what we do. So that's the instituteofwow.com. There's a bunch of free stuff there. If you're interested in the vacations incentive program, just go to vacationsincentive.com. And although there you will see that the vacations normally sell for $97 a piece, anyone who goes there and says that they heard about this on your podcast, we give it to them for half that price. So they're going to get $1,000.
And if you have any links after that, you can send me the links. I'll put them in the description.
I will. I'll put that in. And that's about it. And if anyone wants to contact me, and I'll send it to Robin, it's just john@theinstituteofwow.com. So it's john@theinstituteofwow.com.
Absolutely. And if anybody wants to reach out to JD on LinkedIn and you can't find him happen not to find him on LinkedIn for some reason, LinkedIn's getting crowded, reach out to me from my network and I will connect you. I'll do the introduction to JD if you're interested in those services.
Thank you,
I
Robin.
was so impressed with this conversation.
Whoever does make contact has to put up with dad jokes. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Robin, before we go, I want to ask you, I know you're doing the wrap up, but what will they call Bob the Builder when he retires?
Retired Bob the Builder?
No, just Bob.
Just Bob. That's a good one. I like that one.
If any of my 6 millennial children were listening to this, they would just roll their eyes and go, Dad, you're not funny. Just stop it. Stop it.
I had fun with that. I laughed, and it is funny.
Yeah.
I want to thank you so much. I really appreciate it, JD, for being part of this conversation.
My pleasure, and thank you for having me as a guest. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate your being with me. And for the audience, thank you so much for listening in. If you're coming in on YouTube, thanks for watching us. Keep an eye on the short videos that we produce for each one of those episodes. We generally produce about 20 to 30, depends on the topic. And feel free to consume the content at a smaller chunks if you want. And if you want to listen to the entire episode, this will be available on YouTube. It'll be available on all your streaming podcast platforms that you're familiar with. And I also produced one blog post summarizing the conversation. It goes on my blog post site, robinayoub.blog. Feel free to check out previous episodes as well. Thank you so much for making us part of your conversation, part of your listening habits. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys at the next episode. Hang in a second there, John. Go.